Raw and Nerdy.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Raw and Nerdy. This is episode number 48. I am Joe the Widget, and I am joined by the man who has some kind of plan, Mr. Rook.
Man, don't be giving me that much credit. I'm just winging it.
Yeah, that's how we do it on the show, yo. I mean, on Starfield Raw, we're way more planned and precise, but when we come to our notes on Raw and Nerdy, it's like, okay, that sounds interesting. Maybe we'll talk about it. And then we eventually do. Or not, one way or the other. Archon is not joining us tonight. He is in a lot of pain with his hurt shoulder. He was saying it was a 9 out of 10, and so he needs to rest and stay off of that shoulder. But we do have a guest host tonight from our Discord, Mr. Mossy.
Hey, happy to be here, guys. Looking forward to talking some Star Wars with y'all.
Yeah, he's our biggest Star Wars nut in Discord, and I can say that with 100% certainty.
Emphasis on the nut.
I mean, his symbol is Boba Fett's helmet. Come on.
Yeah, all the Boba Fett stuff that he's posted in Discord chat. Jeez, it's crazy.
Not just Boba Fett, Mandalorian in general.
Yeah.
I tried to back off of doing that stuff because it kind of seemed a little overwhelming.
So we're going to definitely be talking Star Wars tonight. Now, me and Rook are not, we're Star Wars fans, but we're not as educated with that series as like Archon is. But Archon's out tonight, so we'll wing it.
I'm fairly versed in Star Wars, including the Legend universe. But I just don't talk about it as often because I like Star Trek more.
Yeah, you guys all just sit here and nod. Okay. Mm-hmm. Sure.
Nod and smile. Just nod and smile.
I've seen the movies and a little bit of the shows. Before we do that, though, before we get into the fun, we're going to talk about our weeks in nerddom and then roll from there. We got a couple little news articles, some interesting stuff, especially when it comes to bringing back extinct species. We'll get into that later. And yeah, so, Rook, what have you been up to, man?
Well, as most of y'all know, I'm a supervisor at my job. I have been switched to night shift, and so I've been working a ton. And because of, I get to work, which brings me up to the next bit. I won't be here next week.
Yeah, he's got to work.
Rotation. Yeah. Hey, at least I'm letting everybody know in advance.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I was going to go out and finally watch Deadpool and Wolverine, but for some reason, the local theater, every time I went to go purchase my ticket, it kept saying the seats were taken, but it never updated the seat chart. So I guess I'll go. Hopefully it's in the theaters in 2 weeks. I'm pretty sure it will be, though.
Yeah, I still refuse to go alone. And I know Archon would give me crud right now if he was on the air with us. But I'm going to probably have to watch it when it comes out on Amazon or something because I don't really don't feel like going to the theater right now.
I want to watch it. What's up?
There's something to be said for being able to put it on pause and go to the bathroom. Sometimes watching the privacy of your own house is pretty nice.
Yeah.
That's true.
One reason why I really want to watch it is the very first R-rated Marvel movie has a cameo in it. And those of you who don't know what I'm talking about aren't real Marvel fans.
Then I guess I'm not.
Blade, Wesley Snipes movie, is actually a Marvel character.
Dude, you're doing stuff that I don't want to hear right now. I'm going to see this movie.
You're going to see it. Hey, he was in the, what's those things called? Previews. So,
trailer?
I know he's in it. Yeah, they had one where he was in it.
I'm going to keep my lips zipped.
I want to see it. Let's see. I've been listening. I follow a person on Spotify and YouTube. His name is r/. He reads Reddit stories. Mostly it's, am I the asshole? And entitled parent, true off my chest, best of, all those kind of subreddits. And he actually, when he reads them, because it's easier to listen to them while I'm driving to work, I feel so much better about my life that I haven't dealt with the stuff that these people are going through.
It always puts your life in perspective when you hear someone having it a lot worse than you.
The stuff I hear on there, oh my, it's just crazy. There's some stuff about entitled parents. I've heard of entitled parents, but the entitlement some of these parents have. There's one that I was listening to where the kid is an outcast from his family, pretty much. His brother gets treated oh so great and whatnot. So he had to earn his own money to buy a house and all this stuff. Well, he bought a house, and then his family tried giving it to his brother and sister-in-law, even though he said no and all that stuff. It's like, wow. So yeah, I've never had to deal with that. Luckily, me and my brother are close.
I've heard so many horror stories of siblings. I have 7 of them, and yeah, I really don't have any horror stories. I feel fortunate in that department.
I think the horror stories we hear stem from having entitled parents.
True.
And your parents aren't really entitled.
Well, that term entitled can mean multiple different things, but
Well, in the terms of thinking your kids deserve everything while nobody else does, your parents actually raised you right, yo.
right?
I think it comes down to it. If you got to struggle a little bit in life, it makes you thankful for things that you get. So
Mhm.
yeah, I can kind of get the idea with people being entitled, thinking everything's easy. Well, yeah, we'll give this to your brother. You'll just get another house. Yeah, I don't know how that
Exactly.
works.
Yeah, the entire story was just horrible. But that's just the tip of the iceberg on some of these stories.
Oh, I have no
But
doubt. And how many of them are really true, though, and how many of them are made up?
well, you can tell I'm starting to be able to tell which ones are true, and I'm starting to really see which ones are fake. That particular one, though, oh my God, you could find a police report about it. It's true, and a lot of them, if they start getting a lot of slack for possibly being fake, they will post stuff to show it's true.
Hmm.
Yeah, Reddit, thank you for making me feel better about my life. Let's see. I'm back in Texas, as everybody knows. This move, though, however, has been the most stressful thing I've ever done, and I served 10 years in the Navy, working on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier. Rather do that for 10 years straight than this move.
But you're in Texas. You made it.
Yes, I'm in Texas, finally, but I've been living in a hotel for the past month.
I did that when I started working for General Atomics. I was in there for 6 weeks, but I liked it. I milked it. It's like a little mini apartment that they paid for that I didn't have to clean.
Yeah, unfortunately, they gave me 25 days worth of a hotel stay instead of 45 days worth of a hotel stay. So, luckily, I found another one that does weekly rates of like $474. So I'm staying there now. But good news is I have a house that I'm going to be renting. I just got the approval for it. So hopefully Tuesday I'll start getting all the paperwork together and whatnot. And then finally, in my nerdum, I watched Jaws.
Is this the first time you've seen this?
No.
I was going to say, because I would have to slap you around a little bit.
Dude, I've watched that movie like 3 times.
I mean, why are you bringing it up now?
Mostly when I was a kid. Because I literally just watched Jaws. I can look to my my right, and actually see the movie on the TV.
Spielberg is one of my favorite directors of all time.
He's really good. I like how he directs.
I met him.
Stories, you did?
Oh,
yeah, I got to tell you this little story. So a lot of people don't know, but I was in the gaming industry for several years, and I started out as a tester. I don't know if I should even get into. Well, you know what? I'm gonna do something. Since we're on this, I'm going to just go ahead and talk about a little bit about my past, because I hate doing it on the air, but I'm going to anyway because it's interesting. I went to UCLA, and while I was there, they had an event for, it was a Bethesda game, the space one. Why can't I think of it? The RTS in space.
I'm trying to think of which one that one is. I don't remember the Bethesda's game, RTS.
Yeah, I'm typing. I normally don't type while I'm doing this, but not Bethesda. I'm sorry, Blizzard.
Oh, that's great. My mind just went blank. StarCraft.
Yeah, see, it happens. Yeah, StarCraft. Every time we go on the air, I'll know everything when I'm not in front of my microphone. But as soon as I get in front of the microphone, I'm like, huh, what? So anyway, they had this big event in the computer halls, because back then they had actually computer labs you had to go into to do a lot of your homework and stuff like that. And I was majoring in microcomputer engineering, so I spent a lot of time in the computer labs. Well, they have these. I didn't get any bonuses from the government, so I had to pay for my student loans and housing, all that stuff, so I had to get a job. Well, they have job placement specialists at the college, so I was getting to know one really well, and she wanted to know what my dream career was. I told her I want to be in video gaming. She goes, well, I might be able to help you with that. And then one day she goes, so they're having a StarCraft event in X and X computer lab. I don't remember which one it was. Be there on that Friday night, and I'm going to introduce you to Bethesda. Blizzard, I mean. So I was like, cool. Went there. I never played StarCraft. Didn't know how to play it, but I went on there and played it and had some fun. And went up talking to a couple of the lead developers for Blizzard. And they gave me a little hint about a project they were working on that was a massively massive game. I'm sure anyone who knows about Blizzard knows what game that was. So they told me, well, yeah, we're not really hiring right now, but we have friends over at Activision, which is literally like a 5-minute bus ride from the campus, that are hiring for testers. They said, come in Monday. I'll let them know you're coming and do your application there, and they'll probably interview the same day. So I went in there and did that. Got my interview the same day. I think I was there for 3 hours that day. And during the interview, there's this little popular little thing in the gaming industry that they use to test designers and testers is the peanut butter and jelly theory. What that is they ask you simply, how do you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Do you guys have any idea how you would answer that?
Say again?
How do you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
I don't know if it's a joke or not.
No, it was a serious question. They did this as a serious test. It's the very first thing they asked me in the interview too. Basically, what they're asking is, how detailed are you going to get with this? If you just say, well, you take out 2 pieces of bread, you put peanut butter on one, jelly on the other one, and put it together, they'll say, it was great talking to you. Have a great day.
No, they want something like, I'm going to walk into the kitchen. If I'm in my living room, I'm just going to get up, walk into the kitchen, open up my cabinet that has my bread, pull the bread out. Then I'm going to close the cabinet.
No, they want even more detail. I went into straight details. Like, my bread is located on the 3rd counter from the left when you first come in the kitchen. Undo the twist tie, get the bag undone, pull out 2 pristine pieces of bread after you pull out a plate, put it on the plate, and use this way, and you tell them exactly where you get the peanut butter, where you get the jelly, what kind of peanut butter it is, what kind of jelly it is, exactly how you apply it to the bread. And eventually they were like, okay, you passed this one, and they continued on. So long story short, I got the job. And I became a test analyst.
You should have answered it like you're writing a computer program.
Right?
Oh, God, that would have been horrible.
They want an eye for detail. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Somebody who can...
They told me that that's the same question that they ask all designers as well, and programmers. I think the only ones they don't ask that one is art teams. So the game I was working on, so Activision's a publisher, and they have a lot of their developers that actually develop in Activision's tower. It was like a 12-story building, and they had 3 stories below in the basement. That basement is where the testers lived. That's where I had to go every day. And the game we were working on was Quake 3 Arena in early development.
Nice.
So kind of
that's been a fun one.
Yeah. So one day when I was working on it, I'd been working there for probably a month, going in every day in the morning, and I do classes at night. It was an amazing experience, by the way, being a tester, an official paid tester. It was incredible. I got to be in the industry. I got to see games being made for the first time, up close and personal. Even though being a tester is a very, very painful experience. Because they'll give you a testing plan each day, and you have to go by that testing plan that your lead gives you. And it'd be like loading up this arena with this character, with each character 20 times each for the next 4 hours. And then if anything goes wrong, write it in the bug report. What classification of bug, and it's a very painful experience. So I had an idea for a character. I don't remember how I got the idea. So I kind of did a little sketch on it when I was on a break one day, and I had an idea for some of the maps. So I sketched out some plans of the maps, and then my lead saw me doing that. He was in there talking to me during lunch, and he's like, and they had a really cool cafeteria in the basement too, the dungeon. He looked at him and said, why don't we take this up to the design team and see what they think? I was nervous, and I said, well, he goes, have you ever considered a career as a designer going more into the industry? I said, oh, heck yeah. So he took me upstairs to the development side where the designers were, and the director happened to be there. I forgot his name. I think it was Scott. But my lead showed him my work, and he was like, okay. The director came over, and he said, okay, I actually think this is kind of cool. What is your idea for this character? So, well, what little I know about the story you guys have been producing, I think he could be the cameraman. For those who don't know about Quake, it's like a death show, like a reality TV death show. So I gave him the idea for that, and he goes, well, I want you to take this down to art. You're going to be off testing today. You're going to take this down to art team, and you're going to bring it to the concept artists. So I brought the concept artists, and they started modeling it out of clay. So I had a little 3D model sculpture of it, and we kept changing details about it. And some of the design team came down and worked on it. And then the director said, well, I want you to go up to the design lab, and they're going to show you the game engine, and they're going to show you how to build in the game engine. And we want you to try building your first map design. So I spent all day doing that. At the end of it, the director said, well, I've seen enough. I want you to come in tomorrow and for the rest of the week, because that was like on Tuesday. And I want you to continue working on this. And go with the art team, have them do some 2D rendering sketches and stuff like that, and we'll talk. So on Friday came around, and I showed him my model. It was an actual working in-game level. It was void of detail, because I was terrible at that even then. And I gave him the 3D mock-up of my character, as well as like the 2D images and renderings for the character. And he looked at me and said, well, congratulations, you're now going to double your pay, and you're going to be working upstairs with the design team. I'm going to put you in as an intern level designer. So then the following Monday, I got to be a designer, and that's kind of rolled my career in the industry as a designer. And the character I developed was the eyeball.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So every time like Buffalo Game Space, I used to be a part of them. I'm going a lot of story. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, that's fine. I like to listen.
We had these LAN parties, and every time they had to play Quake 3 Arena, and they always had to try to beat me because I was a tester on that game, and I got stupid good at it. And they'd always try to take my character, the eyeball, and play against me with him. But yeah, that was my origin stories in the game industry. And I forgot why I was even going there.
Tisk.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it was all about meeting the director.
There you go.
I completely
It's all
forgot
about
his
meeting
name.
Spielberg.
Yeah, Spielberg. So
Oh,
I started working after my job with that, after the game was going into gold. I got hired on as a designer, a level 1 designer for a company called Black Ops Entertainment. And we were working on a video game called Jurassic Park, or Warpath Jurassic Park. It was a complete flop. Most people have never heard of it. Came out for PlayStation 1. Probably the biggest flop I've ever worked on. But it was the biggest learning experience, the most fun I've ever had. And we were working very closely with Spielberg Studio in making this because it was Jurassic Park. So one time, we had to work on a Saturday. They didn't tell us why. They said, just come in on Saturday. You're going to work about 6 hours. So we came in, and we got into the main meeting room, which we always start out in, and Mr. Spielberg was sitting there with 3 of his leads. And we wound up playing...
Nice.
Yeah. We wound up playing a little tournament of Super Smash Bros. With him. It was a blast. He's a fantastic guy. The guy is incredible. And then we got to business and started talking about Jurassic Park and all that stuff. So anyway, my story time's over.
Oh, sorry, buddy. Is that where you got your love from the Yankee? I remember that in a previous Raw and Nerdy.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. No, it's actually a love-hate. I hate the Yankee. Because he was the most buggy character in that entire game. He was one of my characters. I didn't do much character work, but they put him on me for some weird reason. I did mostly the level design, which was really cool, having to go back to the movie film all the time and sketch out ideas for the arenas. But anyway, they put the Yankee on me when we were going closer to gold, and I had to try to get him fixed, and it was a nightmare. Anyway.
That's pretty cool to meet Spielberg.
I don't know what you're talking about. Everything I'm seeing has a 4.4 out of 5 and a 4.9 out of 5 rating for that game.
And what's funny? I wrote the strategy guide for it, and I cannot find a copy of it anywhere. If anyone could find the official strategy guide for Warpath Jurassic Park, let me know. I used to have the dev copy of it, still burned. But, yeah, my ex-wife got rid of that, unfortunately. Anyway, Mossy, how's your week been?
Oh, pretty busy with work and stuff, but I was also able to check out a Nintendo Direct and kind of see what was going on with that. And of course, I started off the week listening to this Raw and Nerdy podcast. Maybe you guys heard about it when you guys were breaking down Gamescom. That was pretty cool. I hope you guys get to get out there one day. That'd be pretty neat to see.
Oh, I hope so.
And I was just kind of playing some No Man's Sky. One thing I don't like about that game is instead of having like a united profile that kind of goes across different systems, I've got it on Switch. So if I want my character to get all the goodies on Switch, I got to play it on Switch. I got to play it on the Xbox. I got to play it on the PS2. So you're doing the same thing in triplicate, and it kind of sucks. But I thought, I'm there for the grind. I'll go ahead and do it. So I finished off that exhibition for Liquidators. It had a kind of a really cool bug hunting theme, and then kind of was looking into that Star Wars Outlaws a little bit. But yeah, short of that, just kind of work. Listening to you guys.
Let's talk a little bit about Star Wars Outlaws, because we're getting a lot of I'm seeing a lot of mixed reviews on that game. A lot. Like some of the big YouTubers have been saying that it's not worth the ratings it's getting, and it's getting like mid-level ratings.
Well, yeah. I had I had heard that some people were being bribed basically to give it good reviews. I haven't played it yet. I'm kind of giving it some chance to cook a little bit first because it's a Ubisoft game and they tend to be kind of buggy to go with. I'm kind of glad I didn't get early access because the poor guys who got it for PS5, they paid I think close to $160, and that's for like the full edition, kind of like what we did with Starfield, where you pay the $100 and you get all the expansion stuff.
Yeah.
But they also got some early access. When day one dropped, they rolled out a patch that basically nuked all their progress. They said, there's a bug, and if you want to get any further in this, you're basically going to have to reset and start fresh. So, all that early access they had, I guess, was just more or less basic training, kind of figure out what you want to do. But I felt bad for them for that because talk about a kick in the gut. But like I said, I'm interested in the game. I hear a lot of things about people not liking how it looks, or how it performs. But
yeah, I've heard other bad things about like some of the content and doesn't play very well and things like that.
Yeah. I figure time will tell, and maybe it'll take a little time to get to where it needs to be and they iron out all the bugs. But yeah, I didn't buy it first out the gate. That's one of the first Star Wars games I kind of kept my powder dry on. Normally I'm buying everything as soon as it comes out on the game front.
Anyone who listens to the show knows that I was looking forward to it when it was first announced, but as time went on and more came out with it, I kind of lost interest in it entirely.
One thing I saw a lot of people complaining about was how the female lead looks, and I've got no issue with that. I think it looks all right. But one thing that kind of made me laugh is like the more I looked at her, it's like I kind of started seeing Eddie Van Halen from Van Halen. It's like kind of looks like that, but the actress, what I think
I
they
like
kind of
it. I was interested in it.
Where I think they kind of did a disservice to it is, well, have you guys played Survivor yet? Jedi Survivor or any of those?
No. Mm-mm.
Well, the guy who I'm blanking on actors, but the guy who plays Cal Kestis, he was the Joker on the Batman or on the Arkham show. It was a while back, I think on WB or something. But they made the guy look exactly like the character so they can put it into live action. Where they kind of missed the boat on this is the lady who does the voice and all the voice acting for the Outlaw character doesn't resemble her role at all. And it would have been an easy enough thing to do, but that way they could use her in live action too if they ever needed to for like Disney Plus in a series.
Yeah, I know my brother Daniel, aka Boone in chat, is a big fan of Star Wars, always has been. So yeah, he's getting a little bit not too happy with some of the negative things people have been saying about New Outlaws.
Yeah. I think it's all right. Like I said, I just wanted to wait and see. And he was one of the people in chat I kind of hit up on Discord because I know he got the early access. Hopefully he didn't get it on the PlayStation 5. That would suck. But then again, if the game's good, you don't mind going through it again.
Yeah. If you enjoy it, that's what counts. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that are going to love this game and enjoy it. So more power to them. It's just not on my radar. It's not my cup of tea. I have actually only played very few Star Wars games.
Well,
I'm just glad they're actually making a Star Wars game that is not based around the Jedi.
Oh, yeah. That's one of my favorite parts, though.
I always like the bounty hunters and that kind of stuff, too. But yeah, the Jedi and stuff are nice. It's just there's so many games already for them. Mm-hmm. I don't want that I don't like Outlaws, and it's not necessarily the game that canceled out the one that I wanted to see, but there was one, 1313 was going to be the Star Wars game that was in development before they changed it and canceled everything out. But it was basically a young Boba Fett game. So naturally, me loving Boba Fett, yeah, that was had a chip on my shoulder out the gate. But
right,
what was that one that EA canceled the game and the studio?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I can't think of it.
That might have been the 1313. I'm thinking it was. I could be mistaken, but I'm almost positive that's not what it was. Because for the longest time, EA had a stranglehold on doing all the content for all of Disney as far as video games go. And I can be critical of Disney sometimes. One thing I will say that is credit to them is when they were doing all that microtransaction crap with EA, or EA was doing it, I should say. Disney was like, no, man, you got to back this stuff off. We are catching flack. What are you doing here?
Yeah.
That's and that's a credit to them. And they ended up releasing a bunch of that stuff later on as not really free, but you didn't have to grind for it nearly as much. It was like a classic edition or something, and you just, as soon as you get the game, if you get the classic edition or whatever edition it is, deluxe, everything's unlocked for you, so you don't have to sit there and grind forever.
That's one of the things about EA that's kind of ruined its reputation over the years is the fact they went full microtransaction on everything, and they just push out game after game after game without letting the studios do their work.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what. And they keep acquiring all these studios, and then these big names. They try making quick releases on those big games or big names franchises, and then tank them.
Yeah.
Bethesda with not Bethesda.
You mean like Disney?
BioWare with Andromeda.
Oh yeah, that was hard
EA,
though when you.
EA Games is the devil.
And they're in the same category as Disney with me.
Mm.
There's
The
EA,
funny-
and there's one more studio that does the same thing as EA, and I can't think of it right now. I'm telling you, man, it's
The
the
thing-
curse of the mic.
Oh yeah, right. With Disney, I will say one thing they also did good as far as when EA was concerned. There are no microtransactions at all in either Jedi Outcast or Survivor. You can get
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
some skins and stuff if you want to, but it's not like you need to pay to play or any of that. And they're both really good games. Which if you really like,
I love them.
if you like the Jedi stuff, you'd probably get into this.
The only Star Wars game I ever really, really liked was Knights of the Old Republic.
I think
Right.
if you like action adventure, I don't remember if you do or not. You'd like Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about it, and there's the other one that was really popular. I can't think of the name of it that I almost played but never did. And I did
Another popular one is Jedi Outcast.
Yeah, Outcast, the first one is really, really good. It almost makes you feel like you're part Indiana Jones because there's a lot of ruins and spelunking, and there's a lot of character. You know what's sad? There seems to be more character development in the video games anymore than there is in the series and in the movies for new characters.
Well, here's the problem with the series and the new characters. With the series, you have showrunners who don't listen to the feedback they're getting from fans saying that it's dry, the character, there's no character progression, the acting is not that great, and instead blames it on the viewers for whatever reason.
Oh, there's a lot of that going on, and it's aggravating. Like I said, I've gone back. My history with Star Wars is I'm coming close to 50 years age. I'm not quite 50 yet, so I did not see the original one in the theaters. I saw Empire. Empire was the first movie I saw in the theater, and I was like maybe I was about 5 or 6. But I fell in love with it then, and I had an older sister who bought me all the merch. But as I followed it, like I said, Boba Fett's been my favorite character since Dirt. What does George Lucas do in Return of the Jedi? He kills him, right? So I was devastated. So Star Wars has always had one disappointment or two to me, but I've always loved the overall product. It's not like I expect it to be 100% for me.
All right,
But
so here's a question for you real quick.
Mhm.
And I'm going to ask you this while it's still on my head. You're a big Boba Fett fan. Boba Fett has a maximum of, I think, out of the 3 movies, less than 25 minutes of screen time.
hmm
What made you fall in love with him?
Like I said, first movie I saw was Empire, and this guy was bad as hell. I mean, I'm like, there's all the bounty hunters there,
That was the first
And
one
even-
I saw, but I was like 2 years old.
Mhm.
So my parents said I loved it. I don't ever remember it, but I think every birthday from then until I was 10 was Star Wars.
That is the one character that still surprises George Lucas because everybody
Oh.
fell in love with that character, and he had very minor role.
Yeah. But
And
And
then
now-
they did him dirty.
oh boy, did they! But it's not even so much what he said; it's what he did. If you took Boba Fett out of Empire, what happens? He never follows the Falcon to Cloud City. They never get a bargaining chip to try to draw Luke off of Dagobah with Han Solo and the guys. And then, after they've captured him, so Luke and Vader never fight because they never get together. I mean, basically, the movie, they'd find a way to make it happen. Of course, I'm not saying without Boba Fett, Star Wars never exists, but
Yeah.
he was pivotal, not so much what he said, but what he did. And then we go back to Empire. He delivers them to Jabba, and then
Well, it's like any
that-
other main character or even sub character in a big franchise like this. They all have a role. If you took out any of the minor characters, it would
Mhm.
change the movie in a drastic way.
But yeah, with him,
It-
I gotta say, honestly, it's just how badass he looked. I thought that is so freaking cool. I mean,
All right.
who is this guy?
The few words that they gave him and how he looked and how they made him feared by other bounty hunters really gave a mysterious background to him, which they did a really good job extending in the expanded universe at the time
Oh,
in
yeah.
novels. But
Yep.
they did him totally dirty with the Book of Boba Fett. When the best parts of that TV series or that show is when the Mandalorian is in it, then you know you're doing bad. Because he was great in the Mandalorian when he was in the scenes in the Mandalorian.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. I was so jazzed, and then we got the Book of Boba Fett, and I love the beginning. I mean, it's kind of cool when he chokes out that sand centaur looking thing,
Hmm.
out in the desert, and he's still tough, he's still a badass, still doing his Boba Fett thing. But then they kind of lost me a little bit in the middle, and I really liked the end with Cad Bane and the Rancor and stuff.
Yeah,
Uh,
if they would have played to the show, actually made it multiple seasons and developed the story arc they followed in that one season, I think
mhm.
it would have been way better.
Yeah, because he does change from the Mando, where he's taking off stormtrooper heads and just
Hmm.
in general a bad guy. You don't want to mess with him. To taking off his helmet and giving it to the lady in the cantina, and he just is so chill and relaxed. And it's like I can understand him getting to there eventually and changing because as we grow, we're not the same person we were when we were youths. But
Hmm.
it's just like from 0 to 60. It's like, oh, this is him now, full stop. Now he's changed. Now he's more relaxed. And I get the whole tribe thing with the Sand People, the Tusken Raiders. That kind of really helped him change a bit, and then the near-death experience. But they don't really quantify it. They don't really get into it much. It's just
Exactly. It's
you
just
have to
back.
be a mhm. You've got to
It's
be a
just
big fan.
flashbacks.
Yeah, you've got to be a big fan and do a little bit of mental gymnastics to make excuses to say, yeah, it's all right, it's all right. But yeah, I still enjoyed the show, and I thought it was pretty good. But I'm not going to lie, how they brought him back in Legends in one of those books was far better, where he fought his way out of
Hmm.
the Sarlacc, and it turned out the Sarlacc was sentient. It could think, it could talk, it ate a Jedi, so it had, how it always whatever it digests, it sort of gets a little bit of power from or ability from. So
Hmm.
in
That I never
digesting
heard
this
of.
Jedi, oh yeah, dude, it's crazy. He ends up digesting this Jedi, and the thing is talking to him while it's torturing him, and he's fighting his way out. It is an awesome, awesome read. But that's how he gets, and then he goes back every year because the Sarlacc's not dead in this book anyway, and flies over it with the Slave One and kind of gives it a little bit of atmosphere burn with the engines to bake it a little bit, torture it back. It's
So one thing, in my opinion, the Legends did a 100% better job of telling a story than Disney is with any of their TV series. And the reason why I say that is because I believe, and don't quote me on this because I've never read the full stories of it, but Yoda's backstory was in the Legends universe is he was trained and raised by a bounty hunter. And I believe they're pulling parts of that to use in the Mandalorian and Grogu story.
it would
So,
it wouldn't
mhm,
surprise me. I'm not aware of that, but there's a lot of it that I haven't read as far as that goes. And there's the whole thing too with Grogu, whether maybe he's a clone of Yoda. I mean, they haven't really gotten into that much,
Yeah, they've kind of kept
but
that really quiet.
I
what
think we're
really
going to hear
bothers me
about.
about that, what really bothers me about that series, though, is the fact that season 4 is going to be a movie instead of a TV series. Granted, each series was 30 to 45 minutes long. Each episode was 30 to 45 minutes long. You had 8 episodes. So if you make a 4 hour long movie, cool.
Yeah, or if they could break it into almost like I don't want to see them do because I hate trilogies when they're spaced out because you're waiting for a couple of years to get back what's
Hmm.
going on. If they break it up a little bit, I don't know if it's going to be a one shot or if it's going to be a couple of arcs that they're going to break up. But yeah, I'd rather have a TV series too, because like I said, we talked earlier about going to see Wolverine and Deadpool. You can put the TV
Hmm.
on pause and go to the bathroom if you want to. You
Yeah,
don't
I
have
could
to pay
spend
as
a
much.
dollar fifty on my bag of popcorn instead of like $12.
Amen.
No, but if they film it like they did the original Lord of the Rings, the with Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, if they filmed the entire story they want to tell over a period of time, and then they just chop it up, so all you're doing is waiting for that next year for post production, then I'm cool with it. You can make the story as meaningful as you want and still get enough quality development of the characters.
That's a great point, Rook, because I kind of see this with Stranger Things, which I love that show too. But they take so much time in between. For one, with younger characters, the actors and actresses, they grow up a little bit and they don't look the same. But when you're playing a role, it's tough to go back after a few years and get right back into that mindset. Whereas if you've done a bunch of takes, you've put out your first movie. If you're following it with immediately going into it again, you still got that role fresh in your head. You're still that character. It makes for a better product because it's easier on the actors and it really lets them shine.
Yeah,
But-
it does. And if they advance time in between seasons of a series, then it's okay. Like Star Trek, for example. Each season, they talk about each season. Like, we'll take Star Trek Voyager because its timeline's more definitive.
Yeah.
That entire series takes place over 7 years, the length of the actual series. So if they do something like that, where time's progressing in between each season,
Yeah, I
and
noticed
it's
that
noticeable.
a lot with Star Trek. Like when it starts a new season, they'll talk about how everything was peaceful and it was normal missions and stuff like that. And then
Mhm.
you got to imagine that they would have many, many, many days in between that it was normal routine stuff. It's not always action adventure and something going wrong.
Yeah, and so if Star Wars, if they were to actually do something like that, where you're going to have a time period because we're still trying to, the writer's strike happened, so the writer's strike put a kibosh on filming anything for a period of time. If they came back with that new season and said this much time elapsed due to something in the background happening, cool, because that is storytelling. You're advancing the characters, you're advancing the timeline of the show. What I'm afraid of is if they do make, when they do make The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is the name of the potential, I think that's the name they've actually announced for the movie for season 4. If you actually take that and then you realize, hey, it did good, we want to make another one, and then you try picking up close to where that one left off, it's going to kill the vibe. Advances time a little bit. That's like they did with season 1 and season 2, where the time was advanced between when he got Grogu and when Grogu was in training and stuff. Was it season 2?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, but see, they advanced the time in the season when you had that time gap. So if they continue to do something like that, you can still develop the story and give character development. Some of it might be in the background and you can flashback it, but don't do what you did with Boba Fett and don't flashback every big important thing that happened.
Right. And if you handle it the right way and you kind of explain through storytelling while you're doing it, you don't even have to do a flashback. Like take the difference in Empire to Return of the Jedi. In Jedi, Luke shows up with a green lightsaber. Oh yeah, I built this thing in between episodes. You guys didn't see it, but yeah. And I also learned a bunch of new Force stuff.
Yeah.
And I've been busy.
Because you got to think about it. You do see at the end of Empire, he has his hand chopped off with the lightsaber.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you have to explain how he got a lightsaber.
Yep. He built his own and learned a bunch of other stuff. That was a cool arc too they did in Legends where they got the hand and they cloned Luke. Oh man, that was tough.
You know what I would like to see them do with Rey? This would be an awesome story. Take aspects of the new Jedi Order from Legends and use Rey's character, because I do like her character.
Oh, me too.
And use her character to create the new Jedi Order. Obviously you can't follow precisely the way the books went, but you can still take reference from those books and actually utilize parts of those books to actually make a very good show.
Well, I just hope they really kind of go back to not necessarily how Jedis were, but I hope when she starts her order, she kind of makes it like it was, because I got to say, part of the reason why I did not like the Disney sequels is because what they did with the Force, for one, with Jedis being kind of, George Lucas based Jedi off of monks, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And, inner peace and that kind of thing. And then, when you've got Luke living out on a rock, first of all, you got Luke trying to kill his nephew. What the hell? I didn't get that at all. Then he's living out on a rock because he's severed himself from the Force, and he throws his dad's lightsaber over his shoulder into the ocean, and he's like, the Force is dumb. And then Yoda's ghost shows up, burns down a tree with all the Jedi stuff in there. I mean, it's like they were saying nothing's sacred. There's there's no point of having this order or this code. We give up. And to me, that, for somebody who's a new viewer, they don't have to go back and figure out where Jedi started or what they're based off of or whatever. And that's probably what they were going for, is they're like, we don't want to be bogged down with all the minutia. But at the same point in time, it was a punch in the gut. And then Han and Leia breaking up, and then Han's son killing him. It just, everything about that, the sequels, I had trouble with, other than I liked Rey as a character. I kind of liked her being a Palpatine. And I liked her breaking the mold and what she did. And then, when all the ships show up, and you can kind of go through the stills and see what ships are there from all the sequels and legends and stuff. It's pretty cool. But
the part of me, sadly, the part I didn't like about Rey was the fact that she was a Palpatine. I was really hoping they would have brought Mara Jade into canon and actually made her a unknown child of Luke and Mara.
Oh, yeah, that would have been cool. If Luke had gotten, there's still talk of them maybe bringing Mara in at some point in time, but I don't know how they're going to do that, because right now we've already seen Luke as an old man, unless they roll things back a ways and kind of show us what he was doing out on that island beforehand.
But on the see, there is that gap right there that you see Luke training Grogu and building his academy. You could easily do a CGI Luke Skywalker and actually make a series based around the events that happened after Return of the Jedi and the new series.
Yeah.
But the problem is they took. I don't like how they did the sequel trilogy, because you have a desert planet, somebody from a desert planet trying to escape a desert planet, there's this big moon planetary space station that you got to destroy, to, hey, let's go beat the bad guys once and for all again. It was literally a rehash of the original trilogy.
Oh yeah, 100%. There were a lot of things that I thought they could have given more time for Rey to develop too, and stuff with Finn, I would like to saw more there. It's like a lot the supporting characters for that, they seemed so supporting. I mean, they were just really, really in the background. And what you get more with the original trilogy was kind of like a core four, so to speak, where you had Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, and other people too, but there were no real minor roles where I really thought they did Finn dirty. I would like to saw development with him, being force sensitive, and they could have gone so much better. They did him dirty. I'm sorry. But,
especially when there is lore established that they turned into legends, saying that it's hard for a non-force user to utilize a lightsaber without cutting off their own body parts. And then you got Finn picking up a lightsaber and using it without cutting off his own body parts.
Yeah, there's a whole talk too. Oh, go ahead, Butch.
It's feeling out of place.
No,
here.
Let's change direction a little bit on this. I'm curious what Mossy thinks of the current Star Wars franchise since Disney took over.
Oh, well, I'm not going to get political or anything, because what makes me feel unwelcomed is the very political nature that the series is going in.
Well, that's Disney in itself. They've gone way too much agenda-based.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that everything they make is bad. I'm going to go into the Acolyte, and I'm probably going to make some people mad. I did not enjoy anything about the Acolyte.
Well, you're not alone.
Yeah,
you're definitely not alone.
I know.
I'm going to go slightly political. I'm not going to hit hard on this. I have a liberal friend who does not like the Acolyte because the story writing is horrible.
Yeah.
While the show writer is trying to say it's for completely other different reasons.
When you hire people to write a show who have solely based on their belief system, you're right there. You're making the biggest mistake possible. You need writers who know the material.
Exactly.
Hire people who like the material, not just know it, but like it.
Well, and she could have done a bang-up job. The director for this, the producer for this show, and she could have done a really good job. Had all the things so they made sense. And to be honest, I still wouldn't care for it, because she said from the get-go she wanted to write a corruption arc. She wanted somebody good to turn evil, and there is no happy ending. And it's I don't know. That's not where my feelings are. I wouldn't like it, but I wouldn't hate it, because of of one reason or another. It just wouldn't be my jam. But there's a lot of other things that are wrong with it, and when you try to point it out or you try to have a discussion about it, they're quick to jump down your throat and say, "Oh no!" And there's like a big petition, for instance, on Twitter to bring it back. And I wish them luck. And if they want it back, bring it back. It's not going to hurt me if it comes back. But what does hurt me is when I say, "Well, I didn't like it." Well, you're a racist. You're a misogynist. You're all these things. You're just an old gatekeeper. And it's like, dude, I am anything but.
Right.
One of the chief reasons I don't like it is I want to introduce new fans to it. I've got great nieces and nephews. I want to watch Star Wars with them, but I don't want them to watch a show where, it's cool to be evil and there's semi-naked scenes going on. Granted, we've all had Leia in a bikini. we all remember that from Jedi.
Oh yeah, they still do cosplay about that all the time everywhere.
I bet you they
for
do.
good reason.
But
so here's my thought. The reason why the corruption thing is so big is because you have all of the bad going good. Nobody's really touching on the good going bad. I get your point of view from it, and it's great. It's a great point of view when you're talking about family oriented.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good to see them change the direction of most of the other shows.
Mm-hmm. That's why, like I said, if they would have done this perfect, as far as like the lore breaking that kind of goes on, and just some of the weird stuff that I wasn't on board with, I'd still have an issue with it. But it wouldn't make it a bad thing. It would just make it not for me,
right?
Per se.
Exactly.
But
now I got a question for you.
Uh-huh.
If they were to bring it back, and Kathleen Kennedy is to retire, who would you want to actually run the Lucasfilms to guide this director to make a better show?
Well, from what I hear, Kathleen Kennedy's just that'd be my dream come true. Favreau, maybe Filoni, either one of those guys. I'm not sure. There's
I
so
like
much.
Both of those guys. Yeah,
I do too. But right now, the problem with Disney is they're starting to retcon all the stuff. Like if it doesn't work, instead of saying, "Oh, we didn't mean to do that," maybe we need to pay more attention to the details. And they're like, "Oh no, this is like Wikipedia's got out the whiteout and putting on everything, trying to make stuff make sense."
Yeah.
And that goes back to what you were saying, Rick. They have people with agendas trying to make, and you want a story with good feeling in it, right? But you need to know what you're talking. I don't need to make a Sesame Street show about gun safety. I probably could make one, but you don't. You got to know your audience, so to speak. Why are the people here? What do they want to see? What has made them appreciate the product from way back in the day? And when you're going back and you're tearing down the bedrock of that foundation by, crapping over lore, changing things up, taking everything that we thought was lore and saying, no, this is Legends now. This stuff didn't happen, but we see it. There's some cool stuff. Yeah, that Thrawn guy, he's going to be real now. So they kind of pick and choose. And you're thinking, oh, right, we get Thrawn. But when they introduce him, it's not how he was in Legends, and it's different. So you go in and you kind of kick yourself or shoot yourself in the foot, because you go in with expectations thinking, oh, finally, we're getting this guy, and then that ain't the guy. It's tough. But I think whoever gets Kathleen Kennedy's position is going to have their works cut out for him, because it's a different animal anymore.
I would hope that whoever gets Kathleen Kennedy's position would actually sit there, look at the Legends, look at what stories are the most popular in the Legends, pull those back. Because, see, right now, the way they did Thrawn, you could still make him into the way he was in Legends.
Oh, yeah. The bedrock's there for sure.
Yeah. You can easily make it the way people understand that character to be. But you need to have somebody that's willing to go and say, we're pulling from Legends. It's not going to be the same. It's going to be our story. But the bedrock that's in the Legends is perfect for what we want to do.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with the Acolyte is, and I shouldn't speak out against it too harshly on this point of canon, because she hasn't got a chance, Hagel's not got a chance to do the second season, because I think they canceled it. But there was a lot of things where things didn't line up on the timeline, and I'm not going to complain much about that. I mean, timelines are things that you can avoid. It's not like it's written in, well, it is written in stone, because it's literally when you're supposed to be alive, but that's something like that I can overlook. That's not a big deal. But when they've got stuff like Yoda finding out toward the end that the Sith are still around, and then if you look at Phantom Menace, there's that one epic line by Mundi. He was like, "Oh, the Sith, they've been extinct for, so long." And it's like, "Nah, dude, where were you at? They were around just 60 years ago. Where were you?" It's just it makes Yoda kind of look bad. And then I kind of dived into it a little bit. I'm like, okay, so they're kind of crapping on Yoda, who's one of my favorites too. It's kind of like, you don't do that to my boy. But they said,
I'm gonna bring up
Yoda's.
that.
Yeah, it's like Yoda's been a liar for a while. They said because it's like, remember when they lied to Luke about his dad and everything? It's like the Jedi's are liars. The Jedi's are bad, and it's like, no, they're not. Not, at least mine weren't. And maybe that's more of a me problem than a Star Wars problem. But I just don't like.
See, if you look at it though, the Jedi weren't altruistic, and that's what some people don't realize is the Jedi were like monks. They're not altruistic. They have their own personal beliefs on how they should handle situations. So lying to a kid, telling him his father isn't alive, by definition, is sort of true.
Yeah,
It's a truth omitting details.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's a thing that they like to do with Obi-Wan Kenobi, especially from a certain point of view. Like you're the good man that I knew who was your father. He explains it to Luke later.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Ben, why'd you lie to me?" He says, "The good man that was your father ceased to exist when Anakin left and Darth Vader became who he was."
All right, guys, we're getting a little bit low on time, so I want to take one more little question from you guys for the last 5 minutes or so. Do you have any thoughts on the new Skeleton Crew coming out?
I am 100% looking forward to that. It's Goonies in space with my Star Wars guys, and
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, the cast is awesome. I get to see Urkel again. I love that dude. Jude Law. I was kind of looking through the casting notes for the different actors and stuff. It's going to be good.
But are you at least a little bit hesitant with how they've been portraying Star Wars the last 4 or 5 shows they've done?
Well, that would require me to have a brain in my head, which, and when it comes to Star Wars, I think more with my heart than anything else. I'm guardedly
leery about.
I'm guardedly optimistic.
Here is my take on it. Do they have who's writing the show? Is it the writers from Star Wars: The Clone Wars, or is it the writers from Acolyte?
That's a good question.
That is the two extremes when it comes to Star Wars, because you have one of the best series ever as Star Trek: The Clone Wars.
Star Wars.
One that after episode 2 tanked.
Yeah, I know it's definitely not Acolyte based. It's a fresh take, I want to say. I don't know if I don't think it's
created by John Watts and Christopher Ford.
There you go. I'm hopeful for it because I don't think it's going to be the same as Acolyte was. The Acolyte kind of went through things because it was a corruption arc. The lady who they did different interviews with the director, and she's like, that's my bread and butter. I like space witches. I like the evil stuff. It's what I like. I think she did a good job of portraying that in her product. It's just it wasn't for me at the end of the day.
You gotta, like you said earlier, you have to make these shows, especially on something that's such an established IP. You gotta make the shows towards your audience. When you alienate them, it's gonna fail, and it did. But I'm hoping Disney has finally learned their lesson, and they're gonna start making these shows for the fans.
Well, the thing is you cannot say the corruption arc was not for the fans, because there's a lot of fans out there that prefer the dark side versus the light side.
Oh yeah.
But by that, what I meant was how they kind of changed a lot of the
all
canon.
the retconning.
Yeah, everything, and all their injection of their belief systems and all that kind of stuff. It was too much for my taste.
Mine as well, and like you said, you can see it happened. They gave that like $180 million budget. It did not get the views. People started off pretty warm on it. They're thinking this could be pretty cool, but the direction it was headed was pretty evident pretty early. It didn't lie to you. It didn't pretend to be one thing and turn into another. So I think people caught on and
from the
ducked
beginning. She mentioned how she was going to do it. Yeah. But here's the thing about Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Skeleton Crew tells a coming-of-age story about 4 children who make a discovery on their home planet, get lost in the galaxy, and go on an adventure to get back home. So that sounds like it's going to be interesting.
One of my favorite movies as a kid was one called The Explorers, where I think it's The Explorers, where they get plans for a spaceship and they turn like a bumper car into one of them. And it's got that 80s kid vibe, where I think it's going to be.
Oh, of course.
I think it's going to be good.
Let's see. Its showrunners are going to be John Watts and Christopher Ford, It's going to have Jude Law. I don't know who Ravi Cabot Conyers is. Ryan Kira Armstrong. Kiriana Crater. Robert Timothy Smith. I'm not going to attempt to say that name. Kerry Condon and Nick Frost. Those are the big
Yep.
names in it.
I only recognize one name in that entire list because I am so terrible with actor names.
Not usually the best either.
I don't even really care.
Yeah, same here. I'm not there to know the person or the actor. I'm here to see what the role they play. You know?
Exactly.
Yep.
I've seen too many actors that are fantastic actors make bad movies and make amazing movies. It just depends on the script and everyone else involved in the movie.
Hey.
or
I've
show.
seen actors, if they're really into the role, take a bad script and make it a decent movie.
I'm trying to think of an example of that.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the example of it.
Like when it comes
rare.
down to a person's work, I've always been good as far as like music goes. When a person's work, separating it from the person at large, because you hear all sorts of bad things. I remember when they were really, slamming Michael Jackson back in the day about all the weird stuff that they were attributing him or that. It's like, I don't care. His music still slaps. I like Michael Jackson. I always will.
Yep.
Some of his old stuff back in the day. Same thing with when I really got into grunge and stuff like that. It's like, oh yeah, these people are, because I'm a Christian. We're like, these people are God haters. And they got a good baseline there. Maybe they'll get their souls right. Who knows? I don't care. I'm not there to judge them. That ain't up to me. I'm there to judge the product.
Exactly.
They can do whatever they want. But
Well, we're going to have to wrap up the show here, gentlemen. Any last thoughts before we close it out?
I got one last thought. I hope that The Acolyte doesn't deter Disney from making a good series in the New Republic time frame, and I hope they make a series in the Old Republic time frame. That's all I got to say about that.
Old Republic would be cool.
There were rumors that they're going to be making another trilogy, and they were going to put it in the Old Republic timeline, but I don't know how those rumors are true or not.
There's so many good books back in the Old Republic era. They've got a lot they could tap into.
I want to thank Mossy very much for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure having you on talking Star Wars. Really appreciate it. And we missed Archon, but
well, maybe next time. We can always go around too in the future.
Absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show here tonight. If you guys want to email us in for business suggestions, things like that for the show, podcastraw@gmail.com. Our Discord is the place to be if you want to come join like-minded people and just nerds in general, really, and talk about everything nerdy and under the sun. Discord.gg/raw podcasts. That's plural.
And we don't even charge you for it.
Nope, it's free. It's free to join a community and have fun. And our Twitter is @PodcastRaw. Our Facebook is Raw Podcasts. Our Instagram,
Raw Podcast 1.
and you can follow us individually as well. I am @TheWidget, TheWigit, on everything. If you want to Google that name, you can find my books and everything else.
You can find me everywhere as some variation of Tomcat213, except for on Steam and X, where I am @Rook213.
Is there anything you want to give out, Mossy, before we call it a night?
No, they can always find me right behind them. Now, getting aside, you can find me on that Discord that you guys are talking about, which is the place to be. Such great people. I mean, they're very welcoming. It's the opposite of Star Wars fan base right now, where you got people at each other's throats. But no, I'm there pretty much all the time, and all I got to say is may the Force be with you. So
Have a fantastic nerdy week, everybody, and we'll talk to you again.
Y'all stay nerdy now. You hear?
later days, guys.